Hello, everyone. This is Aaron from Deep Dive Discography. Today, we are talking to Josh Christian from Toxik. How are you today, sir?
Hey Aaron, how are you?
I'm doing well. Before we get into too much, happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
I did hear, I was told. So you
That's
guys have
funny.
a new album coming out.
Yes.
I mean, you guys have been around for so long. It's almost surprising how few albums you technically have.
Yeah, we like to take our time, and everyone else's.
Well, practice makes perfect, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So tell us a bit about the new album, what went into making it. I mean, it's been a little bit since the last one.
Yeah. Well, we've put out some EPs in the in between. We actually do have several releases that came out between 2012, 2013, and then 2017 again, and 2018. So there was, we were putting music out, but we never put out a full length album. Um, we were already working on this before COVID hit, but COVID obviously created a little bit more availability of time for us to finish the record up. And I think it sort of is part of why the record is produced the way it is. We had time to work on it. I don't know that it would have been as deep an album if we didn't have that space to work, but we did. And yeah, we spent most of that time while the rest of the world was on hold. We were writing and working on new material.
So obviously you guys have been through so many lineup changes over the was it 30 some odd year course of your time.
Yeah.
How do you feel each lineup changes basically the way the band sounds?
Well, obviously, every time you mix up the chemistry, you've got a new product. So, if you like original Coke, you're out of luck, right? But I never really thought of it that way either. That was off the cuff. But in a way, I guess there's some truth to it too. This particular unit that we have right now, this lineup that I've got now, is really faithful to the original sound when we play live, and that's kind of something that's just over the years kind of come to through an organic process come to its own. So when we went in to record this record, when it came time to start recording this, we were working on tracks. A lot of that same sort of vibe that we catch live was on the album, and I think that you can feel that. I'm glad that we caught this lineup's energy on this record. That is a big part of why it feels the way that it does. This lineup in particular right now, Shane, James, Eric, me, Ron, obviously. It's very true to like kind of what the original, which is weird to say because it is such a long time ago, but it's really true to what the original vibe of the band was. Everybody's on the same page. Everyone's really into making the best music we can. And that was kind of what we had going for us when we started.
So the new album, Morta, the first single off of it being Power, I guess your concept behind it was kind of fitting to the times that we're in, especially in the States right now.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of continues throughout the remainder of the album as well.
Yeah, that's basically the concept behind the record. It's social unrest, the usual for us, but it's particularly valid right now because there's so much real unrest in the world.
Yeah, and the way you describe Power is it's about church and state essentially.
It is. It's about how they like to pretend they're divided, but really they support one another and sort of trap us in the process. The powers that be are the powers that be. We sort of accept authority arbitrarily without ever questioning it. And I know it may seem like a tried and true theme, something that's been used quite a bit, but I think, again, being where we are right now as a world, I don't think there's ever been a better time to talk about that. So yeah, it's a protest song, in its own way. Well,
what is it? The world copies art.
Yeah, right. It's the loop, which is copying which, right?
Yeah. So you guys just got back from Europe as well. You played a few festivals, a few club shows. From my understanding, you also showed off the title track.
Yes.
Did you have fun getting to play some of the new music now that?
Yeah. It was great. We probably would have liked to have played a little bit more, but the way it worked out, the set was fairly short. We were opening for Heathen, so we had that opening slot, which is 40 minutes, 50 minutes, sort of at the most. So we didn't have time to really break out too much, but with the album not being out anyway, it seemed fitting to sort of play the one song that would really stick in people's minds. And so we played the title track because everyone can remember that. And it's got a pretty manageable chorus. Like, I was surprised at how many people were able to sort of grab onto it like right away and sing along with it. It's got an anthem quality to it because people were singing it back to us from the very first show.
That's one thing that you guys are good about, it having that sort of anthemic, not arena rock isn't the right way to put it, but that style of thrash as opposed to something that's not so sing-song.
Yeah, well, and without being right, it's a fine line. Like you said, like you say arena anthem, and it's like an immediate smile because it is like you don't want to go full on Korn, but at the same time, and I don't mean the band, I mean being corny. But like at the same time, you do want to kind of connect with people, and I think that's especially important for Toxik because we're pretty technical. So we really do need something that people can latch onto. So I think we kind of find a good blend of the two.
Yeah, like you said, it is a lot more technical. There's a lot more going on instrumentally, so I guess a little bit more simplification when it comes to the singing does make it a bit easier for everyone else.
Make it a little more approachable,
Yeah, and obviously some people do just prefer the vocals and the singing, so it gives something to everyone.
Yep, exactly.
So the album comes out on the 5th of August, if I remember right. I don't have it right in front of me. Perfect.
Nope, good memory. Yep.
So which songs are you most looking forward to playing once it's out?
Oh, gosh, there's a lot of good songs on the record. Songs that I think will be crowd favorites. We've already put out a couple of videos for, right? We put out Power and we put out Creating the Abyss. Both of those songs I think will be pretty strong live tunes, especially Creating's got a really churning rhythm that I'm looking forward to breaking out live. I think that's going to be killer on stage. I think when we break into that main riff on stage, people are going to be like, I don't know if I can use profanity, but I almost,
you're fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because that's a what the fuck moment. When that kicks in, that's just got that thing that it does. I think Straight Razor is going to be a challenge, which is the second song off the second side, because it's like a 210 BPM and it's super, super busy. It's like high speed, really technical song. It'll be a rip to play that live. To pull that off live, I think it'll have that like that feeling, and that, I don't think, and I have to speak for the whole band because I'm here by myself. So I'm speaking for the band when I say all of this. I don't think anybody wants to, we don't want to go out and beat people over the head with the new material because we know we have faithful fans and people want to hear World Circus. They want to hear Think This, and we want to play it. We love playing it. But if we're smart and we strategically drop the new stuff in the right places, it'll only augment the live show, and it's a lot more fun for us to play the new material.
Yeah, like you said, you don't want to go too intense with it. You'll end up losing some people in it.
It's easy to do, man. I'd love to go out and play the whole album, like that's what you want to do, but you can't. You have to kind of pick and choose, find the songs that really kind of say something in a live context, because that's the other thing. Some songs are great for listening, but not everything comes across live or can be sort of long. So you pick and choose based on what a live show is really what you feel your audience wants, and I think we've got plenty to choose from. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, with the EPs as well, there's a whole lot of back catalog that everyone's going to want to hear.
There's a lot to play.
So what's next for you guys? Where are you hitting the road and when?
Well, Jim, right now, James, drummer, is out with Heathen until September. So Ron and I are going to get busy here on the follow-up to Morta now. We're going to start working on the vocals and recording for the follow-up. And this way, when Jim comes off the road, we can get his drums tracked, and hopefully we've got a timely release for the follow-up to this record. We'd like to have the next album out about within a year, or give or take 12 to 14 months, hopefully. Now, obviously, we haven't talked about this really with the label or anyone else, but this is what the band would like to do. We want to really follow up with something strong and something quick, because we do have such a gap between our albums that we need to kind of get something in place now, I think, to keep our presence in people's minds, especially with COVID, everyone releasing so much music at once. There's been so much coming out, and I hope we don't get lost in it, but there's just a lot of music out right now. So if we come out with another album in 12 months, 14 months, I think it bodes well for our staying power, it gives us a little more longevity. Then the plan is to really support the hell out of both records with as much touring as possible. In the meanwhile, when the album comes out, we'll see what tour offers come in, what makes sense, and we'll go as, you know, per the deal. We'll have to see what's available and what makes financial sense too, of course. You know, you want to play everywhere, but you have to keep it within the budget of what's good for the band, and, you know, how we can pull off a good solid show and not kill ourselves in the process, because it's easy to do, you know.
Yeah, you can't decide to up and go play Mexico City to 5 people in a club.
I'd love to. Those are my favorite 5 people on earth. You know what I mean? You want to do that, but does it make sense? Probably not, you know?
Yeah. So you were talking a little bit about not everything comes across properly live. Which songs do you think may have that, even not from this record specifically, but
Sure.
What songs do you feel like don't really have that same live presence?
I think that it's not a specific song, but it's a specific genre. Toxik has a definite progressive side to us. And sometimes techie music is really good for a small portion of the actual audience that's there, especially at a festival, let's say. You know, if you're playing a headline show where it's Toxik fans, then we can really get away with playing Technical Arrogance or something like that. But I wouldn't want to break that out in front of an audience at Alcatraz. That's, you know, you need to keep the momentum up. You're squeezed between other bands. So you kind of have to be able to be fluid with what the situation calls for. What that means for us as a band is that we have to have a lot of our material ready to play and be able to sort of pull off a set that's spontaneously thrown together. And we're good at that. I feel like like on this last run, our set was different almost every night. We were pretty much figuring out what we wanted to do before we went on, which is really cool because it creates a spontaneity on stage that people can feel. Like you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, what's the next one? Oh yeah, here we go. And it's not like it's a pat show every night, because, and as I say that, both are cool. A well-rehearsed show has its merits as well. I don't want to throw any shade. For us, the spontaneity thing works.
Yeah, and obviously there are sites out there like Setlist where a lot of people do tend to go and look and just learn the set, and it does make for a nice feel when you get something, oh, that wasn't there when I looked.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's just onesie twosies, like if you've got the meat of the set is in place, but you're switching out 2 or 3 songs every night, which is kind of what we were doing. It's really fun for us too. It keeps it way more fun to play. You know, because there are some songs that, you know, especially if you haven't played it in a few nights, it's easy to get, you know, you just get into a groove, you know, and if you suddenly switch up the rotation or the organization of the songs, it's pretty fun, actually. It kind of keeps it live on stage. It keeps it good, you know.
So theoretically, when you are on a festival and, like you said, slotted between 2 bands, you kind of pick something that fits with those 2 styles.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to look at the audience and say, okay, you know, because again, we've got some standards. People are going to want to hear Heart Attack. People are going to want to hear World Circus. Like, there are songs we have to play. And that's kind of cool that we have to play those. Like, I'm really happy that we're a band that has songs people know. That's really cool. So we're more than happy to play those tunes. But it's the stuff that you drop in between that kind of makes the difference. And if we're going to be in a close environment, again, even if we're not headlining, but we're going to play in a venue where there's 250 people, that might be a cool spot to break out an obscure song, a deep track, you know, and give people a treat that we're not playing everywhere. So, you know, if we break out Count Your Blessings or from the first album, or we pull out Machine Dream, In God, and Black and White in one set, all from Think This. Like, those are 3 really heavy songs, you know. To pull those 3 out in a row, we've done that, like where we played all 3 of those back to back, and that's like, if we added it up, it was like 8 minutes of guitar solo between those 3 songs. So if you're playing those 3 tunes in a row, for me, it's a total work-out. By the end of it, I'm sweating like a pig, but you know, it's cool, you know.
And then the next night, you decide to play.
So next night it's a hardcore set, and we do most of World Circus at warp speed. Like, we're totally flexible on the show. It depends, you know.
I was gonna say slower, but I don't think you guys know what slower means.
No, that's another thing too. Like we haven't lost any of our tempo. Like we're still like ridiculously fast as a band. Live too. It's the same thing. I like that. I like that about us. I hope we're always like got that insanity that we have. I like it.
So when you do get to go out again, like you said, it kind of depends on tour offers, all that kind of stuff. Who would be your bucket list band to go out with?
If we could open up for someone, as an example, there are a lot of people that I think could bring us to a much bigger audience that we would do really well with. And outside of our genre, like, I mean, obviously it would be cool to go out with Testament or somebody like that, but I think I think we could go out with Devin Townsend. I think Devin Townsend could take Toxik out. That would be really cool. And it would be an odd pairing, but it would be really good for us because we have a cleverness and a broadness to our music, even though they don't on the surface seem like the same audience or the same kind of music. There is a similarity there. We need a smart audience. We need people who are ready to comprehend. So like, I feel like he brings that, so that would be, as far as like bands that I would like to go out with, I've been lucky enough to play with a lot of the bands I love. Like we're super lucky. Toxik has always had, we were direct support for King Diamond. We played lots of shows with like Pantera and, Danzig and like really classic bands from our era. We played with everyone back in those days. So we were very lucky that way. I had some really great experiences because I'm a fan too, right? Like I love the music that get to play next to. So yeah. So my bucket list has been met by a lot of people. I'd love to play with like King Crimson or somebody like that. Like you know what I mean? Like that would be really, really cool. Like to be on a bill with somebody. Like we were on a bill one time with Marilyn Manson and he played a different night than us. I wish he'd played the night we played. It would have been cool, like this, because that's super eclectic, but yeah.
I mean, as it turns out, you can go out on tour with Pantera again next year.
Well, sort of. Sort of.
Sort of.
What do you think of that? What do you think about that whole thing? What's your take on that?
I mean, okay, I've never been big into Pantera as it is, so okay. I'm a bit indifferent to it.
Okay.
If it comes here, I'll go see it. I never had the chance to see Pantera, so
right.
I wouldn't say no, but at the same time, I'm really not too bothered about it.
Right. I feel the same way.
Yeah, like I do get what people are saying. It doesn't have the Abbott brothers. Like it's quote unquote not Pantera, but yeah. And
I saw two things. I saw something really funny. Somebody was like really ranting, like it's not Pantera because the Paul brothers aren't there. And I really had to laugh to myself about that right off the bat. Because there was somebody that was just raging about the inauthenticity of it, and he didn't even know the last name, right? So like that, I felt that really spoke volumes about a lot of the uproar over it. But on a technical side, I would say, and I have actually opinion about it musically speaking. Zach is a cool guitar player, but Zach does his own versions of people's solos. Like if you go listen to Zach doing Randy, it's Zach's Randy. Jakey Lee did Randy's Randy. Brad Gillis did Randy's Randy, but Zach always did Zach's Randy. Zach's got his own style. It's really strong. And I almost feel like the Dime stuff, if you really wanted to be true to it, and I know this is maybe like will rub some people wrong, but I would think you'd want somebody that could really nail it musically. Like to me, that would be more important than that they hung out and drank beer together. Like I think that's cool, but I think it might be cooler if you had somebody that was a little bit more Van Halen inspired, because that's really where Dimebag comes from. He's got a lot of Van Halen in his DNA. And I just like, so for me, like I'll be curious. And like you said, I don't have really that much of an opinion, but if I do have a thought, it's as a guitar player, and I just don't know how. I wonder what Zach is going to be like. I could be wrong. I hope I am. It would be amazing if he came out and had the tone nailed and came out and just fucking ripped. That would be awesome, but we'll see.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like part of me, like I said, I do get it. It's not the Abbott brothers, yada yada yada, but like somebody can nail that tone, and if somebody nails the tone, that's a good tribute. It's like replacing Phil would be a little bit harder because a voice is a lot harder to nail, but just it is what it is.
And that's the other thing too. Phil is like kind of pretty far from where he started vocally.
Yeah.
So like, when I hear him when he's doing the stuff with like Phil and Friends, like when there's that, like I'm not sure how much justice he's doing for the songs either. So I don't know, man. Like whatever, to each their own. If people enjoy it, like you said, if you never saw Pantera, it's great. I'm lucky enough to have hung out with them and seen them in their heyday, back when they were absolutely ridiculous and just kids. And it's funny. Pantera is like one of those bands that really kind of is a lightning rod band. You either like them or you don't. Their audience is I remember when the Pantera audience became the Pantera audience, and it was a distinct thing. Metal had changed audience-wise, and Pantera was the band that I think really was like a big part of that. Like the vibe changed around Pantera time. I don't know if it was their fault. I'm not going to assign that to them, but there was a definite shift in sort of the level of violence in mosh pits at that time and so forth. Like it just got uglier right then. And it switched. And I know a lot of the old guys like me, like that's where we kind of like went back to the music that we started with. And like, that's where that really kind of began. Like there was a pullback for a while there. But anyway, whatever. I wish those guys well. I think it's cool. And, see what happens. It'll be interesting.
The gatekeeping will always exist. You see it a lot now, obviously, with the Pantera stuff. You have Metallica and the whole Strangers Thing stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys have a fair bit of it yourself you have your style, but there's probably stuff in there where people are like, this just doesn't sound like Toxik.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, again, as somebody who's the sole survivor in a unit, it's a little different for me. I was always the principal songwriter, and because I had moving people early on, like my singer, we switched singers around between the first and second record. I had a guitar player that came in on the second record that wasn't there for the first record. Like I was already kind of like doing that. Like that was sort of happening even at that point. So I think that gives me personally as a writer, as the guy in the band, I feel like that gives me a little bit more flexibility because people accepted that, And when Ron came along, Ron, who's really good at nailing both of the first two singers live, especially, he really helps with that. Like I think it's easier for people to accept Ron because he nails the old stuff. He does the legacy tunes spot on and then brings his own thing to the new stuff. He crushes on the record. Everybody does in the band. I'm really happy with everyone's performance. They're so good, But Ron, man, Ron is like a force of nature and he delivers on the old material too. So it's a very coherent together statement at this point. It's real. I'm happy with Toxik where it's at.
Yeah, the record definitely is quite spot on. Like you said, everyone does sound very good. Minus you did have a small blunder with Power when you first released it.
Oh, that sucked. That was so, and we were on the road, man. For that to happen when we were on the road was so disappointing. It happens though. It wasn't really any one person's fault either. It was a miscommunication it was one email, man. It was that missing email. Let's see the emails, but it's okay. We corrected it. And it was just a sound issue. What it really came down to was that it was the wrong edition of the video. It was the wrong version of the video. And it got uploaded somehow in mono. So it was like, bam, bam. It just killed it. I remember when I first put it on, I was like, wait, this doesn't sound, is this my phone? Why does this sound like this? Because I was listening on my phone. I was like, no, we have to hear this on something. And I was out at a gig. So I'm at a venue. I didn't have access to I didn't have, what am I going to listen to it on? So I was like, I'm scrambling around looking for somebody to play it for me. And then we ended up listening to it in the bus. And I was like, uh-oh, what is that? And then I saw the comments. I was like, so, oh, well, we got it. It happens. Shit happens, man. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's like breaking a string on stage. You deal with it.
Yeah. That's all it is. It's metal. Shit happens.
It's totally metal. Luckily for me, the metal family's pretty cool and understands such things.
Yeah. Well, we are coming up to the end of our time, unfortunately.
Okay.
There any final notes you'd like to give to the fans listening in?
Appreciate your listening time. You guys rock. Without you, we don't have a reason to do what we do. So please keep listening. Really, it's that simple. As artists and musicians, we need our audience. We need people to listen. And, I, for one, am very appreciative of having an audience to make music for.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Josh. I very much appreciate your time, especially on your birthday. Taking the time out is so
my pleasure, Aaron. No, my pleasure, man. Really good. Appreciate your time as well. Thank you.